We else could get paid first.
True, so maybe double start.
Otherwise, there is nobody else if you don't get paid first.
Okay, so Ryan is joining us via Zoom. So he might talk
I
to
can,
you.
I can see it and hear you, so,
Is he
Hi,
there?
Ryan.
He's there.
hello. Sorry, I've been home with a little bit of a fever today, so I figured it was best I stay here and do it remotely, so.
Dave's trying to join via Zoom. He's asked if we saw his name. Nope.
No.
Yes, and double one's okay. It's, you know. I like seeing that in my friends.
If you would go or not. Right?
But it's not.
That's just me.
That's good.
Repeat. Well,
It's the late echo.
This kid watched all that. Your kids were 12 years old. They learned.
Yep. Yeah, we see the next generation is harder than the previous, right? Couple weeks under a tree.
That was one of my questions for you.
Couple weeks.
Couple weeks.
He's backed up pretty.
Did you lose a tree?
Yeah, we got the emerald. But yeah, that's, thank you, that's.
Yeah, I don't know.
For sure.
What are trail system, but
Ready whenever you are, Jessica.
the Whispering Mines. Are those still scheduled for this year? Yes.
so
The one
really
that
that's
was through that.
Kim,
the only one that,
David and Kim are not here.
oh yeah, it's him.
Mhm. Okay.
And he still might join.
Dave might get in.
Is the tree on your property?
Yeah, but it's in the village right away. Oh,
So that's why you're making Bob
That's
take it.
enough.
Are we ready on that end?
let's hope it be done.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan, I don't know if you wanted to start. Tim
Yeah.
is not here and Dave is not here. I know Dave was gonna be trying to join via Zoom.
Okay,
I'll let him in when he's here.
yeah, just notify us when he joins the session, please.
Mhm.
Okay, it is being 6:01. Let's call the planning commission for August to order. First item is public comment on agenda items, 2 minutes per person, 14 minutes per topic. Is there any agenda items that people are wishing to speak on tonight?
Yes,
Okay.
you can, yeah, if you wanna,
So is this part of the agenda then, what I'm gonna talk about?
I don't know.
Yes.
Well, EJ, what are you here for? Let's try to go that way.
Falls in line with one of the
Okay.
items that we're discussing.
EJ Lallier, Somerset Amphitheater. In the past, with all our concerts and the traffic plan, we're trying to get everything narrowed down to work really good, working with John Mumpet, Becky Caffers, or Becky, whatever. And we all got a pretty good plan together. Then we got the 3 houses that are on the front of Float right there. That have people out on the road, stopping traffic. To get them into their yards, to fill their yards up. Which is totally fine. The only bad part is out on the road. Now, those 3 houses don't have a conditional use permit. To park cars. So in the past, Joel has been there. And there's really a loss of connection of who enforces that. We want this traffic thing because at the end of the concert. Traffic was backed up, and once that traffic stops. Then it gets bad. So we gotta stop that from happening. And so this Friday and Saturday are gonna be some pretty big concerts. And we don't want that to happen, so I don't know how it can be enforced. And I know they won't get a conditional use permit before that concert. So somebody needs to step up and take.
I don't think we want to set a precedence for having residents. My opinion, get a conditional use permit to park.
That got put in place a long time ago.
Well,
I mean,
Yeah.
okay, the
that
parking
used to be
lot,
I
there.
think
sure.
we've heard,
Residents
it's not an
used to have-
agenda topic, unfortunately. We've heard EJ's
Okay,
comment, and I think it's well, I'll just say as village president, it's well understood. Joel and I have discussed it. We're kind of come up with something by next week, but in a
Yes,
week,
somebody
it
needs to
might be a
enforce it.
little difficult. But I think we can come up with some long-term solutions involving the planning commission in, you know, for next year, but we're gonna try to figure out what we can for the last 2 days.
Okay, well. My big thing, Ryan, is we have the concerts Friday and Saturday.
I
And
understand that.
I don't want them out on the road. Stopping traffic. I mean, something has to be done. It is a law, it is an ordinance. Somebody needs to enforce it. And I've talked to the chief, talked to the building inspector, and everybody comes back to this committee. So,
Which, yes, well, we have under old business zoning administration, zoning enforcement is a topic of discussion tonight. But your specific issue, I believe the ordinance does leave enough gray space at this point to allow the village president to direct exact enforcement of an issue. So I'm talking under 5A at this point. And we'll examine that and I will work with the chief on that exemption.
okay, because the one thing is we comply, John complies, Becky complies. I mean, in the permits, you gotta have security, you gotta have porta potties, you cannot be out on the road. And we follow all that. And the people that are disrupting our traffic do not have to follow it. Or they're not following.
I understand.
Okay,
Thank you, EJ. Anyone else?
you.
Go ahead.
No, I said, thank you, Ryan.
Oh, okay. I got cut off by myself on this end, so,
Okay.
any other public comment on agenda items? Any other public comment on agenda items? If not, ask for a review of the minutes from July 10th.
Okay, thank you. See you, everybody. Thank
Yeah.
you.
yep.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of July 10, 2025.
A second.
Motion by Belter, second by Plurd. Any discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Minutes passed. Okay, the first item,
Mr. Chairman, can we bump item B
Yep.
under new business to the ahead of item A?
yeah, let me just, on my end, moved to that section. We're talking about the Sherry Auto applicant.
Correct.
Yes,
Well, it kind
Yeah.
of ties into that ordinance, because the ordinance is a review of how we.
yeah, so this, let me, yeah, thank you, Jessica. Let me, before we do go into this, 5A is the new ordinance where we allow the change review of expediting the review. But in this case, we are having the item on the agenda for review and have turn it over to Bob to provide his comments that he's done on the review of the process on the 5B or yes, the auto property at this time.
Yeah, so you did receive the ETZ that was prepared by Mark Edoff Consulting. The parcel is a minor subdivision that's being proposed, splitting that lot into two. It is in our future land use map, and it does border a parcel that is in our future road use mapping as well. That being said, I don't believe the village should have any objections with the ETZ because we do not show any road connections through the property. And we don't feel it will impede any, future growth. So essentially, if we were discussing the other parcel that borders that, we would most likely object. But in this case, we do not show any future roads, nor do we believe that there would be any hindrance to expand the village to the north.
So the reason why we wanted to bring this forward is to kind of show the example of between what we would be bringing forward. And this is one we are bringing forward that may not come forward in the future, but the problem that Bob mentioned to the parcel, to the other parcel, would definitely be something we would object to immediately and bring to the planning commission for its thorough review process. So that's how parts agendas A and B kind of tied together on this. Want to allow a little bit for discussion here. I know this is a little bit of a change, so we were trying to make sure everyone understands the difference between what will be under expedited approval and what will still come through the planning commission for ETZ thorough review. So open up to anyone from the commission for
Okay.
comments.
I'm planning on purchasing from her. She's had a work obligation, so she could make it.
Do you guys want to speak on anything or
I was just here if you had questions.
in your mark?
Yep.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Yep.
Face to face though.
I was just here for questions too. The reason for the split is my mom's property and we're planning on splitting and I'm gonna purchase from her and build a home on it. So that's the intended use for the property.
Yeah, so you'll have two conforming lots in the total Somerset. Yep.
Well, why don't we take action on the Sherry Auto application and come back to the general discussion of what would seek approval and what would not? Is there a motion to approve? I'm gonna pull back up my agenda here. The ETZ application for Town of Somerset, applicant Sherry Auto.
I'll make a motion to approve ETZ application in the town of Somerset. PID 032-1072-70-100, applicant Sherry Otto.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. It'll be forwarded onto the village board for approval. So now that we have that approved, we'll move back a little bit to the general discussion and you know,
Listen to this conversation. Cause I'm curious. Yeah, sure.
so commission members, any questions on what we're under this what we just approved and how that would be an example that probably would not come to the planning commission anymore, but would have come back if it was that other parcel that Bob was discussing that is in the official road mapping plan where a future road corridor would go.
Seems clear.
So basically, we're only concerned from here on out as far as where the roads are going. And not
That's one,
necessarily-
I guess I should say, that's not the only thing we'd be concerned about. But official mapping is one of the key priorities. I'm using that as an example. Another would be a certain type of business that is not, you know,
So-
Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, so like, the manure digester was floating around St. Croix County and, you know, if, let's say a bordering town of Somerset property said, hey, I'm interested, I wanna sell. And that's right bordering the village, we would probably object to that use. Yeah, it's a lot of the things that, I think we had a Woodstock, subdevelopment that was north of Bass Lake. You know, it's 2 miles away. That came here, it cost Woodstock, you know, a few $100s. It requires their surveyors to come and attend. So it's time, it's money. And we sit here and we kind of look at each other and go, why are we talking about this? And so what we're trying to do is to streamline, so we would get the ETZs, we review by the village president, who is the chair, the village engineer, myself, we write a report, submit it to the plan commission. If there's any objection by the plan commission, like, no, we want to talk about that, it goes on the agenda. If there's no objection from the plan commission, it would streamline to the village board. And
Very
it would
smart.
probably act more as a consent agenda, like our village board agendas, where it's just kind of like, bang. So then you still have another opportunity to pull off of that consent if you want another discussion on it. But we have so many of these that are so far out, but we always want the ability to do the ETZ reviews, because we are allowed by law to do them, just like St. Croix County, when we do a subdivision or a plat, they get extraterritorial zoning on us. They're only able to recommendation or review or comments.
So it checks and balances, but almost, you're right, almost everyone I've ever seen, it's like, what do we care? This has nothing to do. So those will be taken out of the mix.
Yeah.
And just the ones that have a problem.
Yeah, but
I like
there's ones that need a vetting process, we'll bring that right through back on the same channels. But to be considerate of people's time, you know, their financial resources.
Yep.
We felt it was a good idea to adopt a new process, so.
And this has caused some friction between the town and village. And this was one thing that we wanted to work towards to show good cooperation between the two jurisdictions. It shows also that we're, hearing those concerns and being responsive, but we're really not giving up any of the extensive review that would be happening anyways. And it still allows us to preserve our review authority, which we don't want to give up altogether. So this was, I think, a good compromise, and still is always reviewed ultimately by the village board at the end of the day on every application as well. So
one question to Bob. We'll still get a notice of anything that is even on the far side out, for our review, at least to, one, be aware it's there. And I mean, as we've never had discussion before, but we would have the opportunity to at least comment on it. Is that notice going to come in our meetings, or are we going to get it when it comes to the community, to the village hall down there?
that is you're kind of tying into some of the old business. We sat down this week and talked about kind of two outstanding issues: the implementation of this. How is this going to be signed off? How are we going to notify the planning commission? Where does the status of zoning administration sit? Where does the status of zoning enforcement sit? So myself, Bob, Jessica, and the police chief are going to try to meet every 2 weeks as our schedule allows to revise those sections and come up with a strategy that will allow for the review, allow for planning commission members to be notified and provide their ability to say object, but also still keep the process moving along. So we are building those internal processes right now. So we'll hopefully have a better answer for that exactly, Dave, next month. But we are working on, an updated form, how the internal process is going to flow,
Okay.
I think Dave, I maybe heard that question a little bit different. I'll get materials out to you, or the village staff will get materials out to you as quickly as possible. And then, yes, it would be the same transparency as before. Plan commission still receives the material, looks at it, sees our recommendation, obviously can disagree with the recommendation and say, no, we want to hear this. Again, we also need a reason to object. Can't just object because we have a strong feeling that farmland should stay farmland, or there's a personal attachment to a property. I grew up there. I don't want to see that developed, those types of things. We legally have some obligation to have a reason to object. That's another component that plan commission should be aware of. So, but again, we'll be, yep, same process. It just
Yeah.
won't require them to come in and do that kind of formal, informal process that creates the time and
No, I see and I agree with it. So I just wanted to make sure that we're still gonna get notification to review stuff in a timely manner so that if we have a comment, we can make our comment back.
So we would reply to the email saying, I have no problem with it.
or.
That's exactly what we're trying to figure out, and how do we document that, you know, to not, and those are those little internal process things that we're working, that I was referring to, that both in this ordinance and the general enforcement, need some internal processes kind of flushed out, and, you know, to put it all on the backs of Jessica to say, oh, we received no, you know, no, you know, objections from any planning commission every single time. That's actually creating us more work. So we don't want to create more work out of this. We're trying to reduce the work. So, that's what I'm getting at, you know, just create, how is this internal process going to work, and we'll get that straightened out. And, but at what Bob was saying to you guys, hopefully it'll be still pretty easy. So I guess with that, I'd like to move on unless anyone else has any questions.
I'm good.
All right,
Yeah.
4C,
I like
4C,
Thank you.
is discussion, possible recommendation, review of Title VII, Chapters for transient merchants. Little background here, we have had discussion apparently in the past, and again recently through some citizen emails regarding, let's say I have a business, I own a business, and it is in the tourism field, but on that business, I rent a little booth out to someone else. Does each of those little booths require a merchant's permit when the entire property is zoned commercial? And the question some have posed saying, yes, every booth needs a permit from the village, even on commercial or industrial property. I feel that is an extreme stretch of our authority to require that, and of businesses. But we wanted to bring it forward to the planning commission to discuss and hear your comments on how that should be. Should we require commercial properties, if they have a subcontracted business or a booth or something like that, to have them get their commercial permit as well on top of it? To this point, the village has not required it because it has been the viewpoint that they're commercial properties and we don't need to interfere any further in their businesses. I'll turn it over to planning commission members for your questions and comments.
How much, if a vendor comes into the community and sets up his booth, what is the cost for them to come in for a short period? So that'd be the first thing I'd want to know. But then the second thing is, I kind of wonder or feel that so we know who and what is coming into the community, that we then should still have that where at least they got to come notify us, pay their small fee. And, you know, if they're a subcontractor, you know, doing the business for the venue that they're at in the same business as the venue is, then it really doesn't require, because they should be covered under their licensing and their insurances. So, you know, but if they're coming in and doing something separately different, and just leasing space from the vendor, I think that we then should have our permitting processes in place so that, you know, one, we know that they're a legitimate vendor, that they have licensings and insurance and are doing work, you know, as a business, but not just as a fly-by cash night, you know, business deal. But I think that is better for the community and protects us. So, you know, so I think there's two issues. If they're subcontracting and providing a service that the vendor they're working for is doing, then they're nothing more than a subcontractor covered underneath their liability. You know, but if they're a free floating business, just showing up and doing something that where somebody says, yeah, come on in and do it, I don't care, give me a cut, you know, well then how do we know they're a legitimate business? You know, and I think we need to protect our, you know, our interests in it. So I think both those questions got to be answered.
It
Yeah,
says
so
here
that gets into the issues. Is it transient or is it part of the existing operation? And
Correct.
yeah, so if it's part of the existing operation, it follows the commercial or industrial or whatever the zoning is. If it's transient in nature, it requires a permit essentially then regardless of what zoning it is. If it's truly transient. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you know, contractors, you know, construction contractors will hire a fly-by-night outfit that comes in with no insurance, no overheads, no nothing. What I'm saying is that we don't want that type of somebody coming here that's just doing something out of the back of a trailer that has no insurance, no liabilities or nothing. If somebody got hurt, somebody got sick from what they're providing, there's no recourse for them to go after other than personally.
Dave, I
the
think-
individual.
Dave, I think Dan has something that addresses what, we understand what you've asked, we understand what you've presented. I think Dan might have found something that addresses that.
Well,
Okay.
first of all, the fee says $20.
Minimal.
Yeah, which is not, I'm assuming this was written up a long time ago. So $20 isn't a whole lot of money anymore. I think we have to look at,
And are you talking about,
Removing that, and put a new fee schedule.
put a new
It's
fee
outside.
schedule in. And if what I'm thinking you're talking about, Ryan, is let's say you have a flea market. And the flea market has a permit, but then of course you've got 20 or 30 or 40 vendors. Is that
Yeah.
kind of what you're saying? So we need to know.
Yeah, exact example. You know, Dick's, let's say the grocery store, they're in the business of selling food, but let's say they have a farmer's market on their property. Does that mean that each of one of those individual farmers require a permit?
Or even
Yeah.
a better example might be if a relative asks if he or she can set up their jewelry booth in the parking lot. I think that my thought is yes, any kind of a booth like that should come through the village. That should be in the paper. Now, whether or not, again, like we just previously had, we enforce it or whatever, that we can see how that plays out. But I think that every one of these booths, whether it's let's just say a concrete business and they have a subcontractor set up their thing, so what? If it's a new, different business, I think they should come through the village to at least address who they are, get that little fee paid. And whether or not they do it, that's not the big deal. It safeties us if it's in the books that they have to do it.
All right.
Then if something bad happens, we are already covered that, hey, they skirted the rules.
Good. I'm glad to hear this is the discussion that we were wanting to hear from the commission members on fleshing out different viewpoints. And so, any other viewpoints
Ryan?
or comments?
Ryan,
go
can I
ahead.
ask a
Please.
question?
Yeah, absolutely. Please go ahead.
So just so I understand what we're talking about, I think I'm kind of hearing two things, you know, somebody that just comes and wants to throw up a thing on our empty lot here and sell corn.
Mhm.
Or are we talking like businesses, a business, whether it be the amphitheater, other businesses, and they're in compliant with everything. and then they bring vendors in on their gig. Those vendors don't need to come through us, right? Cause the business itself is compliant with everything, what they do on their,
And let's say the example, the concert, in that example, they are not, except for the exception of food businesses, but they're not under our jurisdiction.
so if another business
Yep.
has somebody selling gloves. Is
Currently,
that,
that's not under, we are not seeking a permit for that, and that's what kind of a, do we want to seek a permit for that? Do we not? But the example, but the only permit that are being obtained is, food permits from the county health department.
So like the food trucks that are gonna be at the new beer garden, do those have permits? Do we require it? Like all across? the
Well, we don't
road?
have jurisdiction over food and health.
Oh, we don't? Oh.
That's
So we
a-
just have
It's
jurisdiction
the
of.
state, the state puts that directly on the county's responsibility, not on the jurisdiction of the community, unless you reach a certain size or choose to enact your own public health ordinance.
But if someone's selling
Huge
keychains
legal quagmire.
or knickknacks or
so they do or don't?
those yellow smiley faces.
Right.
Oh,
Have we decided, so they do or don't have to have a permit?
From the
Well,
village at the concert site, no.
Okay,
Under the current way we are interpreting our ordinance and state law.
so our hockey girls on the corner there selling sweet corn, since corn's edible, that's okay, but if they were selling jewelry, it wouldn't be okay?
That's kind of what we want to find out.
Okay,
Or do you look at food as is it food that's being prepared for you to eat right there?
A health.
Or,
Yeah.
just selling corn or selling, a farmer's market selling produce.
that's what I was
And you gotta
wondering.
cook yourself, that.
And these are carve outs we can make. We can make carve outs into this. We're just trying to get a better understanding of it because it generates a lot. I wouldn't say a lot of questions, but it does generate a lot of questions.
It
and
generates a lot of questions, so I think
And
we
it
found
generates-
ourselves,
It
This is a
generates a lot of
discussion-
questions about who's being treated fair and who's not, and that's why we're wanting to take time to review this and talk about it. We may not come to a conclusion this month. I think it needs at least another month of thought as well.
I agree.
So,
I see where you're going with this and I agree. I think that it requires a lot of us to think on it and bring it back next month.
yeah, it's not something as simple as I thought it was even at first myself until I started thinking about all the scenarios. So I really would appreciate the commission members taking a look at the information that Jessica has put together in the packet, thinking about different scenarios in the village that we see throughout the year, and coming back next month to discuss those.
I agree.
Make your motion.
sounds good.
Make your motion.
I think the motion is there's no motion to be made. We're discussed it.
Yeah, we can make a motion that it's on
Make a
next week,
motion to
I
table.
make a motion that we table it
till next month.
to next
Second
month.
motion.
I'll second. Yeah, I'll second, yeah. So
Thank you.
make the motion to table it and then we'll go on.
Okay, so I heard a motion to table and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Similar in concept here is my understanding in the past year to 2 years there's been efforts to clean up the different issues of zoning administration, who's the zoning administrator, who's who does zoning enforcement, and that was a little bit what I was referring to, where we are meeting to review the internal process, not only of just of zoning enforcement, but of just application and permit review as well. But so now we're got to a point where I believe in your packet there is the ordinance as it sits now. And let me get to that same section. So if we look at a, um, $13,170 says general provisions and provisions of the zoning administration established. I don't know what page it is in your packets. I apologize.
Page 5 of 7.
Page 5.
Okay. You'll notice, under A1, 2, the capitalized sections, duties of village clerk and building inspector. Those things were added over the last year to flesh out who's doing them.
170.
But
Brian, it's 13,170.
170 and 171,
There we go, yep,
Yeah.
yep, we got it now.
So page 104,
Oh, page 104, not page 5. Okay.
1 of 4. Yeah,
Oh.
so after the
It's a
purple,
different section.
after this color.
Jeepers.
So,
Yeah, there you are.
so
Okay,
what
we're on board.
we're getting to the point of now is, okay, who does the actual enforcement now? Because that has not been fleshed out. And here again, this is exactly just like the discussion we just had. We want to bring it up for discussion, have you think about it, and get us your ideas. But I'd like to hear comments tonight as well. But we are also, Bob and I and Jessica met. We're really thinking that we need to kind of maybe look at a new ordinance, because we quickly looked at some other ones and they're in a much easier to understand than ours.
Another town, are you saying? A different town?
Different village or city, yes.
Pretty similar to ours.
comparing our ordinances to another city, another village's ordinances.
But it was easier to understand on what was zoning administration, who did enforcement. You read this and you don't know who's on first base by the time you're done reading it.
That's the way we felt when you put it together.
And this is not the first time we've thought the same thing, Ryan.
Yep.
Yeah,
And Dave's in the construction trade or the building trade, but most of the rest of us are not. So some of these things, when it comes to fully understanding it is kind of beyond sometimes.
Because Dan and I were involved in putting this together, knowing that something had to be done, and yeah, this is within the last 5 years, I think it was, we struggled through this, and yeah, we never felt comfortable. So if you know that another village or township has something that, like you just said, is easy to read as opposed to this thing that we spitballed the best we could. Yeah.
I mean,
I'd say
I
bring it
found
forward.
at least 10 contradicting statements through this whole section 13.
Now you're just being mean.
No, I mean, it's not your fault. That was the code that was before your revisions.
Well, yeah,
Anyway,
Well-
yeah, we agree wholeheartedly. Fine, bring forth that simple thing, I'd say.
For us to review the other village that they found.
yeah, that's just,
Or we should do some of our own research too.
and we were
Go ahead.
kind of pushed into this process by the previous village president. I think he was more in favor of us being administrators than the rest of us were.
We weren't ready for it.
Well, and I looked a little research into that in planning commissions, and I know, Dave, you may have some history with this, Wallner, but that's a little bit of a Minnesota concept in their planning commissions versus a Wisconsin concept of their planning commissions. That's just my interpretation. I could be wrong in that. Whereas Wisconsin, really treats their planning commissions as an input and advisory process and tries not to get them into enforcement actions.
I think the reason that we have what we have currently is we didn't have the money to buy a zoning administrator. So we had to try to figure out how to absorb that responsibility with the people that were currently in place. So yeah, if you think that you've got a better
Well,
plan.
ultimately, we can, we may be able to absorb the zoning administration somewhere. ultimately it's gonna come down to the code enforcement, who does the investigation and who writes the citation. That I
Okay.
know is gonna come down to a budgetary issue ultimately at the village board level. I'll be very frank about that.
Do you
That
got
is-
something you can bring to us next month?
Maybe not on how to solve the budget part, but possibly on some of the other ideas, yes.
Okay, that's a good plan moving forward.
Yeah, I'd like to see the comparison of other zoning or other village ordinances that you were commenting on. And just compare them, and if they make more sense than ours, yeah, we should certainly look at them.
There's just some that read easier. And
Sure.
so is there a
All right,
motion to
what-
table to next month?
Let's table that. And then one last comment, Ryan. I don't think
Yep.
any of us are really comfortable with issuing citations when we're, community members, and they might be, our next door neighbor, but if they're not in
Yeah.
compliance, then they gotta, to me, it's.
fun. It sounds fun. Let's do it.
To me, it needs to be an outside person, whether the village can afford that or not, I don't know, but.
So currently so the phone calls come to me. And when I tell them. Our zoning administration is the plan commission.
Yeah.
They go, what does that mean? Most likely nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I've got two. That. I've sent the letter out to one. It's gotten worse. And. Maybe it's up by you. You know what I'm talking about,
The trucks.
yes.
Oh, my buddy.
So. I just wanna make sure everyone understands that it's. People are not happy right now,
Okay.
so
It's a crap job, basically.
time is up the. To
Yeah,
figure something
I'll
out.
Yeah.
speak to those two
Budgetary, I
issues.
don't think this is gonna work.
We have an
Hire
open
somebody to
one.
do this, but
Let me answer a little bit how I plan to handle those two open issues, because that is on here on part of the last part of this item, minimum property standards and letters that have gone out or complaints that we received recently. To deal with those direct issues in the interim, there is enough gray language that allows the village president to direct code enforcement investigations and code enforcement citations. That is not something that is sustainable, but it is something we can use to at least work on those specific issues right now. Ultimately, it'll have to be some other form, but we do need to get resolution to this, because as Bob said, we get people that want to make a complaint and then they say they don't, well, never mind, or we do receive a complaint and there's no teeth and no follow through.
strike one, strike two, you're up.
Easy.
Yeah.
Your license is renewed.
Like I said, I think it's easier to have somebody that's not part of the community,
Absolutely.
to do it, because.
That's you got a board member that's doing that, that's a huge popularity thing.
Yeah,
So, no, it's not a good
make,
idea.
make enemies really quick.
Okay, so next month we see what you've got to offer and maybe even put forth a recommendation to hire a new zoning administrator.
Okay.
Why are you laughing at me, Lee?
Is that your motion? Does it need to be second?
So we're just tabling this.
Table, I will second the motion to table.
Aye, thank you. All those in favor of tabling till next month, say aye.
Aye.
Um,
Both
we
say
all
the
have-
same. And the last item is again a little bit of this zoning administration role. Discussion on conditional use permit follow-up. Maybe I'll have Bob or other committee members talk about it. What has been happening in the last couple years. The planning commission has started reviewing the permits, and it's another thing that we don't see as sustainable and needs cleanup and finality to.
You don't think we can just simply get back on and continue with 4 or 5 continues?
Well,
If
I'm
you
not saying,
permit-
I'm not saying that. I'm saying
Oh,
Jessica and I were a little bit, I think there was a resolution we were looking to find that was supposed to actually put this in practice and we couldn't. So we were just trying to understand how you got to where you got, what you are expecting.
Some of the conditional use permits were 20-some years old. Some didn't even pertain, weren't even businesses that weren't even involved or around anymore. So I believe Tasia was sending out a letter saying this business, that we're discontinuing this conditional use permit. My assumption is when it didn't pertain to whoever's was there at the time. And that's what we're just trying to do, is trying to clean these up.
No,
Because they were-
I agree with that. I agree with that concept. We were just trying to, I'm new in this role, even though I've served a long time on the board, and Jessica's new, and we're trying to understand what was happening, what your expectations are,
The
and
most useful thing that we were doing was just getting a whole bunch of conditional use permits out of the paperwork because they had already expired, the businesses were gone, everything was done with. So that's what we did more than anything else, was just clean up and remove CUPs that were no longer valid.
in our informal discussions, Bob, I said, in an ultimate world, Bob and I we would like to see each conditional use permit be required to be signed off by the the current property owner every year. And that's maybe where we're going to try to get to once we get through a cleanup process.
And I
Is
think
that
it's easy enough
something
when,
that-
to
is that
email
something that-
something to sign.
Yeah. Are you
Is
aware
that
that's
something
what
you
that
would-
outside server, oh, no, I wasn't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Do you want outside server? Yes, I do. Okay, let's go redo your permit yet.
personally, I'd like to see 5 of them on the agenda every month, and we can review them before we get here, so they don't take very long.
That worked very slick.
Yeah.
I thought what we had going was valuable.
Okay,
And if you only get through 2 or 3 that month, yeah, the next 2 could just.
we're still making progress.
We're still making progress. Yeah, it's not gonna happen in a month, not gonna, but hopefully a year down the road where we've already been through them and.
Yeah.
And finished with
yep,
it.
so let's say we achieve that goal where we've gone through a full review of all permits, got rid of ones that don't even exist for businesses, or got them all to line up to current property owners. Once that is done, do we want to see a process of where that current business owner has some accountability in their permit by saying, I still follow this permit annually?
Yes, I think we have to get to that point for
I
sure.
think we had that going.
Yeah.
I think that was part of the process that we had newly installed. There was some type of paperwork with updating the addresses and the contacts.
Mhm.
We had all that in place somehow.
Yes, they were getting updated, but we weren't getting to the accountability piece where I'm saying, I own business A and I'm the owner of business A, and I am saying I still comply with all 13 conditions of my permit. And I sign that off on a periodical basis rather than right now. You just get the issuance of the CUP and wait for someone to report a violation.
Yeah, I would like to see a visit, if not, maybe not every year, but every few years to the businesses. I've been in my business for 38 years. Nobody's ever walked up, because it's nobody's job to say, where you're storing your hazardous waste, where is,
You don't have inspections?
are you, well, I mean,
You don't have inspections come in like that and do that?
You don't have a zoning for that state.
I think we're starting to see the commonality of problems here and how complex they get. And people, they don't want to get into writing citations for their neighbor. And and cost have been a holdback for this. I really think both the planning commission and the village board during this budget process and probably the next budget process are going to have to find a solution to this, because we can't keep kicking the can down the road.
Does Travis Below go in and do inspections, like
Fire inspection.
fire
Sure,
inspections? So
That's
Yep,
not.
that's not this review, but
I know.
that-
I know that.
that's an
what I'm
example,
just
but
trying
that
to
is an
go.
example. Yep.
I'm trying to go as an example, like he goes out and does so many a week and has to do that. He does that himself and it's probably
And
part of
then
his pay,
there's,
but
what is there, 20 conditional use permits in the village? 30, I mean, there's not 400,
right.
so,
So
you know, it would be.
so it would be an easy, but okay.
There's more than you think that.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, but I mean, there's,
Okay.
So
I know
part,
it's different, it's the same though.
so part of that, I remember hearing on meetings like a new business, who follows up to make sure that all the conditional use permits.
nobody follows
Nobody.
anything.
We just wait for a complaint, and if a complaint never happens, then
That's a good idea, because
Yeah.
you go up to Lynn's got Lynn's a bowling ball place. Okay, well, they're not making bowling shoes up there anymore. Okay, it's a different company.
Yeah.
They have a CUP, we have a couple of those now that there was an injection molding company, they're not
Yeah.
making any of that stuff anymore. They're making lawnmowers, they're not making lawnmowers anymore, they're drilling wells at this place now,
Yep.
so. That's another thing that we need to figure out when somebody comes and changes their utilities that, hey, oop.
And does it go to the property owner, or does it go to the business?
probably best to do both.
Yeah, because you're right, people lease buildings all the time.
Yep, probably has to be.
So it really should be both, I mean.
I
I mean,
agree, I agree with
Okay,
that. Property
Go ahead,
owners
Dave.
and the business.
Yeah.
Property owners should be first liable because they carry the first liability on the land and they have a lease agreement with somebody that's doing performance in their buildings. So I would say they both have to be notified.
I agree.
So there's no
Right.
one.
I think
talking
that
about
helps us and we'll be
That-
bringing
there's
some of
the
this
UP.
stuff back and
Yeah.
getting back to a review process
You never know.
as we go forward. So
Great.
unless there's any other comments or questions, I'd be open for an adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second,
Third.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your month of August.
Thanks.
They give me
Brian.
first to leave too.
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, guys, I did it from this method.